Hey guys, hope you're all doing great. Obviously, you've probably seen a lot of news come out with Halo this week, and none of it has been, in my opinion, all that interesting, but I still think it's interesting enough to dig a little bit into and just talk about. Now, this is going to be a short video. I don't really have too much to talk about in regards to this, but I do want to kind of give my opinions on some of this stuff, and then talk about what I think for the future of Halo. Now, to quickly recap the kind of updates we've gotten this last week, number one is that Halo Infinite got a surprise update. And the reason it was such a surprise is because we pretty much thought Halo Infinite was done for, right? No new updates, whatever the state the game was in a couple weeks ago was going to be the state the game was going to be in until end of life. And don't get me wrong, obviously there's probably a ton more that we would love to see in Halo Infinite. However, I will say, as someone who's obviously a big fan of Halo and has been playing all of the games, including Halo Infinite, throughout this entire time, I really enjoy the game. I understand a lot of people don't love it that much. I am a huge fan of Halo Infinite, and I think it was a really good game, a step in the right direction for 343, which is, of course, now Halo Studios. And that new update that came out was called Gauntlet. It's basically a twist on Firefight, kind of progressing through waves and defeating bosses. It's not the easiest thing to do, which is actually really good news, because a certain level of difficulty, I think, is really important. When I look back in the past of Halo, I look at Halo 3 ODST's Firefight, which was like the original Firefight to ever come out, as the best one. And one of the reasons for it is because there was a certain level of difficulty and challenge to that you didn't really get in the future games, right? Firefight did come out in Halo Reach, and it was extremely easy, and because of that, I think it stripped away a lot of the fun. So Halo Infinite's new Gauntlet mode, I actually think is really fun. Something that was a surprise, but a very welcome surprise for the game. Now, to dig into what is probably the more interesting news, it has also been leaked that 343 is working on not just the remake of Halo Combat Evolved, which we already knew, it's announced, and we're expecting it to come out this year, but Halo 2 and Halo 3. I will start off by saying this is not really a surprise. I think we all kind of knew this and assumed this when they talked about remaking Halo Combat Evolved. So I don't quite get why so many people right now are acting like this is major news and they're so surprised. And I understand why a lot of people aren't necessarily in love with this news. But with that being said, ever since they announced that Halo Combat Evolved was getting remade, we all kind of thought, and it was not just me, like pretty much the majority of the community thought they're going to remake the trilogy, the original trilogy. And here we are. That's been leaked, obviously not confirmed, but leaked. And assuming that's true, yeah, I mean, a lot of people have thoughts on that. A lot of people had thoughts when Halo Combat Evolved was getting announced of being remade in Unreal. So let's go ahead and just like talk a little bit more about that, right? What are some of the complaints with the remakes, and how do I feel about it, if you don't mind me throwing in my 2 cents? Let me start off by just saying, look, I totally get why a lot of people don't necessarily love the ideas of remakes. A ton of people in game community as a whole, not just Halo community, don't really like to revisit games from the past. A lot of people just want to focus on the future, or a lot of times a lot of people just want to see franchises meet end of life, right? I've seen that with Halo quite often. A lot of people think that they should have just cut it off after Halo Reach, which of course was a prequel, and not make Halo 4, Halo 5, and Infinite and all that stuff, right? So I don't necessarily agree with those people, obviously, right? I'm totally okay with franchises deciding that there's a good point for them to end that franchise and move on, right? I see it with TV shows, I see it with video games and movies, of course, and I respect that. I also respect, and particularly in this particular case with Halo, fall into this camp of people who believe that there's a lot more to give in this franchise. It is a franchise, in my opinion, like Star Wars, that can just keep going on and on and on, so long as it's in the right hands and being dealt with properly. Obviously, the 343 era of Halo isn't the most well-beloved by all the fans. There are 343 fans out there who really love the Halo 4, Halo 5, and Halo Infinite. I don't know if you would necessarily call it a trilogy, but I guess that would be what it is. However, I understand, and I fall into this camp too, who prefers the original trilogy over that. And with that being said, it's not that I think there isn't room or hope that the next trilogy or whatever number of games that come out for Halo cannot be better, and by the grace of God and with a lot of hope, hopefully be as good as the original trilogy, if not better. With that being said, are the chances of that happening very high? In my opinion, probably not. I think Halo Studios is obviously doing a lot of work to go back in the right direction, but there's still a long way to go. And to their credit, I mean, people for the longest time were just saying, oh, Halo's dead without Bungie. But then you look at modern day Bungie, and that studio has also completely collapsed in the eyes of its fans. So I think what we have here isn't necessarily just oh, the franchise can't be saved problem, because I definitely believe it can be. I think what we have is a modern day gaming kind of sucks problem. And maybe not everyone's going to agree with me on that. There definitely are modern games that come out that surprise me and absolutely kill it, do an amazing job. I think right now, one of the games that comes to mind is Resident Evil Requiem. I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil. I played all the games, and I absolutely love Requiem. And I've been playing the hell out of it, even though I already 100% of the base game. Some DLC came out, going right back into it and playing it some more because I just can't get enough of it. But to try and get this kind of back on track, what is my opinions on the original trilogy getting remastered? Obviously in the Unreal Engine, and my opinion is I like it. I mean, honestly, got to answer. I love that original trilogy, which we've already talked about so much that I want to revisit it, and I would love to see it in modern day Unreal Engine, which is honestly one of the most impressive engines I've ever seen. I mean, it's not necessarily that I'm an expert on video game engines, but I will say I look at the footage, the gameplay footage of the new Halo Combat Evolved remaster, and I love it. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. Obviously, I have concerns as a fan of like, how good are we staying true to the original source material? Are we taking liberties to change things? And in my opinion, I hope that's not really the case. I want to re-experience the original trilogy and not deviate from that experience. But with that being said, if they can nail it, it would be the remasters we all kind of really wanted. And what I mean by that is when they came out with Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, it was kind of cool, but at the same time, not particularly beloved by the fans because so much of that artistic vision was changed. There was a lot of kind of issues with it. Lighting wasn't always right. There were some glitches. And again, just to reiterate on the most important part, the original vision of it just didn't feel the same. That you play games like the library, or you play missions, like the library, and it feels completely different from the remastered version, the anniversary version, versus the original Halo Combat Evolved version. And I am like many other fans where I prefer the original because that was how that game was designed and it just felt so much better. So the anniversary remaster, in my opinion, wasn't that great. They did do the anniversary treatment to Halo 2. I think that went a lot better. Still to this day, I think Halo 2 anniversary looks amazing. The graphics just hold up really well, partly because the art style is just so good and they kind of stayed more true to it when it came to Halo 2 anniversary. Still not the most perfect remaster, but great overall in my opinion. I understand if you kind of have a different opinion in regards to that. Totally get it. Never remastered Halo 3, which is probably one of the most in demand. Halo 2 and Halo 3 are like some of the most beloved Halo games by the original fans and beyond the original fans as well. That's kind of obvious, but even as someone who's been around forever, I would agree with that, right? My two favorite Halo games are definitely Halo 2 and Halo 3, despite the fact that I've been with this franchise throughout all of it, right? I never left. I've been here since since Halo 2 launched. I think I was a little young when Halo Combat Evolved launched, but I've been with this franchise the entire time. Played Halo 4, played Halo 5, played Halo Infinite. Still to this day, I absolutely feel that Halo 2 and Halo 3 are kind of peak Halo. So those are definitely my favorites. I totally agree with a lot of people who say the same thing. So Halo 3 coming out with a remaster is really exciting. That was something I was hoping for a while ago. I mean, Halo 3 hit its 10-year anniversary back in, I think, 2017. And it's about to hit its 20-year anniversary a year and some months from now, which is absolutely crazy to me. I remember when that game came out. But with that being said, I think these past 10 years from maybe not 2017, but at some point after like Halo 5 came out before Halo Infinite, I was often thinking about, are they ever going to come out with a Halo 3 remaster? And they never did. So now that we're finally going to get that, it does make me a little bit excited. There are a couple of issues I would bring up. One, it seems like it's only going to be campaign, so no multiplayer in these remasters. And on one hand, I kind of get why. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just saying I understand why. There's already so many competing versions of these games or competing player bases for multiplayer population, right? You have Halo Infinite, you have MCC. You start coming out with a remaster on these original trilogies and each one of them having their own original multiplayer. It will really dilute the fan base, or at least the multiplayer population. It's probably the best way to put it. But with that being said, obviously, one of the core tenets of these original games was the multiplayer. And not having that feels like a watered down experience and not truly experiencing these games to their fullest. So that sucks. And then the last thing that I'll kind of go into that I also share as a concern is we're putting a lot of time and effort into remastering this original trilogy, but people like me are still worried about the future of Halo, right? What comes after Halo Infinite, both in terms of, the story, but also the future of its multiplayer, right? If these games aren't coming out with their own versions of the multiplayer, are we just going to be stuck on Halo Infinite multiplayer? Are we going to be with, of course, MCC multiplayer as well? Or are we eventually going to get the next Halo mainline game with new and hopefully improved multiplayer? And for people like me, I think that's the hope, right? I want to experience these old games. I want to see what they still have to offer and, re-experience is a better word for it. But I still want to have a future of Halo and get to enjoy that future of Halo alongside that. So that's definitely a concern of mine, I would say, because I don't want this to take over from the future. And what I mean by that is, if I have to pick, revisiting the past or having a future of Halo, my obvious answer is a future of Halo. I understand that that might not be everybody's answer, and I respect that, but that's just how I feel about it. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up because I said this was gonna be a short video. I'm already talking longer than I thought I was going to. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will have more videos talking about Halo and other video games and all sorts of other stuff shortly. But with that being said, I really appreciate you guys. Hope you all have a great rest of your days, and I will see you all later.